Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Always a pleasure to have this man back. Former mobster, current pastor. He's a great author. He's also got a YouTube channel about to hit seven figures. It's Michael Franzese. Michael, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good, Joe. How are you? How's the new year treating you so far?
So far, so good. I've had some really great interviews, but this is the one I've been looking forward to all week, and you know that. It is seven figures almost on YouTube, youtube.com/Michael Franzese, and it's Franzese. Some say Franzese, some say Franzese. It's Franzese is how we're pronouncing it. You should see what they do with Pagliarulo, to be honest with you. Michael, almost 1 million followers on YouTube, and I noticed that you're expanding away from just the mob stories. The mob stories certainly grabbed that initial audience, but there is so much insight that you give on everyday stuff that I think it's really resonating with people. Are you finding that?
It is, Joe. And I want to believe I have more to offer than just tell stories about my former life, and I will as they come up. But you know what it is, Joe? We all, it's based upon our background. It's our perspective from how we grew up and the things
Yes.
that we were involved in that we see things. And my perspective is unique in some ways from others because of the lifestyle that I led and that I grew up in, and I like to share that with anybody that I could. And I think people are really appreciating of that. And it's the messages that I get, the comments that motivate me to do just that. So we're having a good time with it.
What's interesting is when I saw you first go into the political fray a little bit, and you haven't gone full-throated yet, but you are getting more political now. You are talking about left versus right, Democrat, Republican, and I think that's appropriate. But at first, people rejected it. I saw some people sort of hit back. But then as they watched the context in which you were putting it, more and more people, doesn't matter which side they're on, are going, you know what, Michael, that makes sense. Are you seeing them sort of turn around? Because again, they thought your niche was only mob stuff. You and I know each other a long time. I know you're way deeper than that. Are you finding that they're starting to go, I can appreciate an outside perspective from somebody who led a different life than I do, but is seeing what's going on in America through those eyes?
Yeah, there's no question, Joe, and that's what's motivating me to do more. And honestly, after I wrote the book, Mafia Democracy, that became a bestseller, we had so many comments that were, you could almost, were almost scripted, where people were saying, Michael, now we get it. Now we see it. Now we understand what's going on. We believed it. We thought something was going on, but you made it so clear, for us. So that's motivated me to give my perspective even more. Joe, it's not about Democratic, Republican, and I tell people all the time, the things that I'm speaking about, it's not politics, it's
Yeah.
issues that affect our daily lives. And of course, they become political because we have a system here. But these are issues that are very important to us. And all I ever stress is hold these people that we put our trust in accountable. That's it.
And it's also right versus wrong. It's certainly not left versus right or red versus blue. There are right things, there are wrong things, and I think that you call out both sides pretty evenly in the book, but you also show that you are legitimately a Christian, more of a conservative guy, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're speaking truth to power and you're going right versus wrong. It's Michael Franzese. My audience, as you know, is 5 to 6 million listeners. I want us to push you over 1 million followers on YouTube. So go to youtube.com/Michael Franzese and please do that and get that book, Mafia Democracy, which is amazing. You and I have talked a lot about the negotiation you've done in your life. You negotiated and beat John Gotti. You negotiated deals for the mob that were worth billions of dollars. You were doing millions upon millions of dollars a week in business just through quiet, calm, smart, intelligent negotiation. I've learned from you. When I interviewed you and Rudy Giuliani, and that's the first time you two spoke in almost half a century, I took a bath in the comments on your YouTube page because I interrupted a lot. And I interrupt a lot because I'm an inquisitive guy and I always want to get the answer to the why, and I wanted to direct the conversation. But I learned a lot from that, and in our private conversations, how to just shut up and listen sometimes. This week, you'll be proud of me. I interviewed General Michael Flynn yesterday, and in 47 minutes, I said like 7 words. I interviewed Graham Hancock the other day, the guy who did Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix, and I said maybe 4 words in about 30 minutes. And the interviews were really, really good because I shut up and listened. Now that I've spoken this much, I want to talk about why I went there. What negotiations do you think are happening right now in the House of Representatives? Kevin McCarthy doesn't have the votes yet as we speak. He probably will get them. He's gaining some with every vote. But how would you handle that negotiation? That's a big power move, that power position, and he doesn't have the votes yet. What would you do?
Well, you know what, Joe, I was very disappointed, still am, but I've learned something this morning. Unfortunately, I can't reveal it, totally.
Okay.
But somebody very close to me that had run for office this past election period told me something that basically he was sold out. And this is a good person, would have been a great candidate, would have been a great, person in Congress. And he was basically sold out. And the reason I'm saying this is there's so many backdoor deals that go on that we're unaware of, where they're even selling out one another, to get position and to get votes and to get so on and so forth. This is the problem. And I think with the current guy, I think there's a trust issue there, and
Kevin
he's not
McCarthy,
able
right.
to get over the hump. Yeah, with McCarthy, there's a trust issue there, and he's not able to get over the hump. And obviously, his negotiation skills are lacking in some regard. It's either that's the problem, or the problem is the people that he's making deals with are not trusting that he's going to deliver. And that's a real issue. I mean, I think they're going to come on board eventually. They better, for the sake of the American people, because they made a lot of promises as a party, to get into the important issues that we need answers to, and we need a lot straightened out in this country, and they better get to work because, that's what's more important. And unfortunately, again, they put their own agenda above everybody else's, and this is what we're seeing all the time. That the sad thing is they've had months and months and months to work this out. So there's some poor negotiating skills at large right here. If they couldn't do it by this time and they had to make a public display over it, something's really lacking. Really.
Michael, great insight. I want to refer back to the John Gotti negotiation where you got what you wanted by making him tell you that he wanted what it was you wanted in the deal. And without getting into the details, and they can go and watch your channel, youtube.com/Michael Franzese, or watch one of my interviews with you where we got into detail with that. But going into a negotiation where there's going to be some hard hitting going on, there's going to be a lot of ego going on, a lot of arrogance going on. How do you gain the proper knowledge in any life negotiation, much less a mob negotiation? How do you gain enough knowledge to know, A, you're going to walk away and get at least much of what you wanted, and B, you'll walk away making sure the other person respects your position? How do you do that?
Well, it's mainly knowing the person that you're dealing with,
Okay.
and knowing the circumstances involved. With John Gotti, just to get back to it, I mean, John was a guy that could never, ever, ever, okay, be perceived as losing an argument. Never. He always had to come out on top. So you had to figure out a way to get what you wanted to get, even if you were settling in some way. Let everybody and himself believe that he was the winner, but you got eventually what you wanted. And there is a skill to that. And there is, you got to show some humility, which a lot of people are afraid to do. There's nothing wrong with that if you're gaining an advantage in an argument or in a negotiation. And I really have to say that, there's 20 people involved in this. It seems like not one of them are able to get past what McCarthy wants to give them. So the negotiation breakdown is really on both sides. You can't give it to any one of them. It's on both sides. And the party as a whole, nobody can step up there and has the respect, I would say, of everybody to say, hey, this is what's going to happen. You people are going to get this. McCarthy, you're going to get this. And we got to get this done for the American people because it's a very, very poor display that's going on right now. It's embarrassing, in my opinion.
In your career in the life, and it's Michael Franzese. Go to michaelfranzese.com, sign up for his crew, franzesewine.com. Go there, great wine. Or go to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Michael Franzese. Go and ingest everything this man does. He's an amazing guy who has been through, I would assume, Michael, you feel like you're living two separate lives, although being able to refer to the past life is a very positive thing in making better decisions today. Have you ever, when you were in the mob, did you ever make a negotiation and a deal with somebody you knew you couldn't trust? Did you ever walk away from the table feeling like you got what you expected, but you knew that you still couldn't trust the person? And this does go to Kevin McCarthy. Those 20 don't trust him. They don't. They feel like he's lied to them in the back office deals. They feel like he said one thing here, came out in front of a camera, and said something completely different. They just don't trust him. Did you ever make a deal like that where you knew you couldn't trust the guy, but you had to make the deal?
Well, fortunately, Joe, in that life, once a deal was struck, it had to be kept,
Okay.
and you were able to put everybody in a position to know that, so that once the deal was done and we shook hands on it, the person you made the deal with, as well as myself, we had to keep our end. There was no way around that. So, that's one safeguard we had in that life. and especially when you had position like I did. I mean, I was a capo when I made these high end deals. People had to respect that. So that was fortunate back then. But if I believed I couldn't trust somebody, then I wanted to end the deal at that moment.
Right.
Just end it
Right.
and be rid of it and not have to deal with it. Now, obviously, in Congress, you can't do that. You're going to be with the guy every day. But listen, again, I'm not in the back door. I don't know what the negotiation is, but it's unfortunate that nobody's been able to really stand up and make this thing happen in the amount of time that it should have happened.
Yeah.
And again, for the American people, for all of us, I just hope they get this done quickly.
Well, I think in the mob, you and I know that if you were not trustworthy and you didn't hold up your end of the deal, you could be paying the ultimate price. You can't do that in Congress, but there is this 1 or 5 member, vacate position that they've taken, which basically means it only takes 5 people in the Congress to say, we don't want you to be the speaker anymore. And then they vote to get rid of him. So I think that might be sort of similar, although he doesn't obviously pay the ultimate price. Hopefully they're going to make a deal, get something done, because the Republicans holding the Democrats in check is really what America wants. When the Democrats had all of it, obviously, we saw what the economy looked like. We see the decisions on the border and so on. You've gotten into on your podcast recently, and go to youtube.com/Michael Franzese, conversations with people like Jordan Peterson, where you're talking about the role of men in life. Men have been emasculated. Men have been attacked. We've been called toxic masculinity for some reason, in some sort of an effort, I guess, to lessen our position in our families and our communities. I'm not really sure why they're doing it, Michael, other than central government wants more control, and you do that by taking power away from men. What do you say to the men and boys that are watching and listening right now that are hearing this garbage about the feminization of men and boys and why they should resist it?
Well, just as an example of that, Andrew Tate, who's been so, widely in the news lately, Andrew and
Right.
I have had conversation about this very topic. And, he has a platform called the War Room that he's got 143,000 men in at this point. And his now, I don't want to be in defense of, he's got a case going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm not talking about that. But it just goes to show you, when somebody is out there saying, we want to teach men how to be men, okay, that men are listening. And I've been doing the same thing for a long time, and I try to, Joe, I think the problem with Andrew's message was that women were very offended by what he said. And some of the things that he said I understand how they were offensive.
Yes.
But what I try to tell women, if we're teaching men how to be men, women are going to benefit by it. They're going to be better husbands, better boyfriends, better fathers, better supporters, better people in lives, and they're going to do the right thing with women. And that's what we stress. And I have a big following in that regard. I have a lot of young men that I mentor too, and we're going to continue that platform. But, it's a shame. People like Jordan Peterson, who I've sat with, had dinner with, just a wonderful man, so bright and intelligent, is preaching manhood, and people are coming after him. You ask why? I think you've got it. It's all about power and control. If you can emasculate men, you can exert more power over them. And unfortunately, in this government, that's all I see is a lust for power and control. And it's scary to me, Joe. It really is. And I'm trying to do my part with my platform to try to alert people to this. It's very scary. It really is.
And you're doing an amazing job with it. There's nothing wrong with being a man, nothing wrong with being the hunter-gatherer protector. I don't know why we would want anybody to stop doing that, other than what we just talked about. The central government wants to be dad. Central government also wants to be God, which is that's the real attack here, because they're trying to get Christianity and a belief in a higher power out of our daily lives by saying turn to the government for what you need, not to some entity that you would kneel to. That's ridiculous as well. And I thank God we've got people like you out there preaching the word of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and to anybody else who doesn't believe, they believe in something else, a higher power of some sort that is not the government. The government is in it for themselves. A higher power is in it to motivate you and to lift you up. Michael, when I saw recently, you mentioned something about the southern border. What would let's say the mafia or the mob, the Cosa Nostra, ran the border towns? And they ran the border towns, and I know that you guys protected regular citizens. Many people don't know that. You guys weren't out to kill the next door neighbor. You guys were out to make deals and to do, yes, illegal stuff that you shouldn't have been doing. But in general, you made sure the neighborhood was a safe one for the residents. You've got people in Laredo, Texas, Del Rio, El Paso, Brownsville, McAllen, who are just being inundated with drugs, and human trafficking and sex trafficking and even worse, gun smuggling, 40,000 murders on the other side of the border. What would you do? What would the Cosa Nostra do to shore up that border? Because the government's not going to do it. The government wants this for some reason. How would you make those communities safer? How would you dissuade the bad guys from doing what they're doing?
You know, Joe, back in the day, we would tell the local police, you don't have to worry about policing our neighborhood. We're going to make sure it's safe. We're going to make
Right.
sure nobody bothers anybody. And the word was out. You didn't, in Bensonhurst, in Greenpoint, in Williamsburg, in Bay Ridge, you didn't have that kind of crime, not in our neighborhoods, because we made sure nobody did it. And if there was any crime going on, it was us, and it was among ourselves. It wasn't with the people that we protected and loved in the community. Look, what's going on at the southern border is I think it's the biggest problem we have in this country because of the fentanyl coming over, because of the amount of human trafficking. In speaking to Border Patrol agents, they told me, Michael, most of the young people that we admit or that are coming across the border are not coming with their parents. They're coming alone. This is human
Wow.
trafficking at the highest level. This was said to me by Border Patrol agents from the state of Texas. Absolute fact. They have no reason to lie to me. They say we can't control it. There's no way that we can control what's going on there. So human trafficking is coming in hordes. It's being done. Fentanyl. Our president made a mistake yesterday. He said, I don't know what he said, 20,000 pounds of fentanyl could kill 1,000 people. Of course, he was wrong.
Yeah.
20,000 pounds of fentanyl can kill half the world, population. That's what they've confiscated so far. They have no idea what's coming over here, but we see the statistics. We see the amount of people, that are dying over this. So what would we do? Look, we have an extensive border. We don't have enough guys, to handle all of that. But I can tell you this. We would take matters into our own hands. I'm sorry if that offends people, but we would not allow these people to come. I mean, there's people, Joe, that are afraid to walk out of their house at night.
Right.
We've seen them on television. Is this how Americans have to live?
And Michael, today, Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, just today looked at a camera and he said, Title 42 or not, the border is not open. They're bold-faced lies right at us. Now, I don't know how you spin what's happening on the southern border to say it's not open when we've got 7,000 illegal aliens every single day that we know about. This isn't the gotaways. These are just the ones that we know about. What do you say, and this has got to be the last question. We're almost out of time, and I can't thank you enough for coming on early in the year. Let's do it a lot this year. Let's have a very big year. But what would you say to people who are taking that in, who are consuming the news, watching the government they want to believe when they're lying so boldly?
Well, the problem is the CNN, the MSNBC, they're not showing these people coming over the border. If you don't go to Fox News, you're not going to see it.
Right.
That's the problem. So when Mayorkas gets up there and boldly lies, and Biden and Harris, and they all lie, well, normal people aren't seeing anything different. So they figure, hey, we put these people in office, we trust them. They're lying. They lie, Joe, every single day. It's disgusting to me. So, we have to try to get the word out. But aside from that, it's these poor people in these border towns. But now, at least, cities like New York and LA, and they're getting overburdened now with immigrants because they're being sent there. Now they're starting to put pressure. That's the only reason Biden went to the border, because his own people are now starting to turn on him. But you know what? I don't see an end in sight. I don't think he has any solution. I don't think he wants to come up with a solution. Now he's blaming Congress when we know that he opened up the gates. It was all Biden, everything. It was all him. So, Joe, we got a tough battle ahead of us. That's all I know.
I want people to go and get this book, Mafia Democracy. Mafia Democracy. This will spell out to you through the eyes of a man who's been through this in the life what's happening in Washington. And by the way, it's happening to a much greater scale than the mob could ever have done, because they're the ones who are passing the laws. They can get away with it and make it look like they did nothing wrong, whereas the mafia had to circumvent the law. Go and get this book, Mafia Democracy. Go and get his wine, franzesewine.com. Go to michaelfranzese.com. And let's push him over 1 million followers or subscribers over on YouTube. Doesn't cost you anything. YouTube.com/Michael Franzese. God bless you, Michael. Happy New Year to you and your beautiful wife and family. And let's do this a lot this year, okay?
Oh, Joe, always a pleasure. Anytime you want me, I'm here. You know that, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you more than you know. We're back after this. Stay right here.